It's great to have you here with us today, Deena. We met at the end of last year when I had the chance to talk with you during a research project NewtonX did with Adweek's editorial team. So when we were planning the session about the complex role of the B2B CMO, you were one of the first people I thought to join us and share insights. But I wonder, what made you interested in joining us here today? What excited you about discussing the evolving role of the CMO and having that conversation with NewtonX and EssenceMediacom appealing?
So, first of all, thanks, Jackie, for having me. I was very excited to join because I think the CMO role is becoming so complex, so many expectations in terms of delivering and orchestrating growth for an organization. As we know, it's one of the shortest tenure C-suite roles. It's a revolving door often because the expectations keep growing. And I think it's a great opportunity to talk about how CMOs need to align to the business strategy and really become part of the execution and operationalization of that strategy.
So while your title is no longer CMO, your new role as Chief Growth and Disruption Officer really puts you at the forefront of how CMO's responsibilities are evolving, especially for an iconic brand like Xerox. And we talked about this a minute ago around the idea of reinvention and how that might resonate with others listening to this. The company has been through a transformation recently. Can you take us through Xerox's business and how it has shifted and why this newly created position was part of that reinvention?
Absolutely. So, this is such an exciting time for Xerox and for me in my personal journey because I have the opportunity to work with so many important parts of our organization who are now aligning and rallying around a unified commercial strategy and goal. So, let's talk a little bit about the reinvention Xerox is going through, why we made some operating model adjustments, and how this role evolved in the past few months. Xerox has been a leader in copy and print for years, over 100 years, right? It's a household name. It's one of those brands that people, use as a verb to describe how they do something. And while that's that rich history of innovation and of, corporate social responsibility and diversity and inclusion are something that we don't want to depart from, we want to build on, we also need to shift for how people are working differently. COVID changed the world for better or for worse, right? We have adopted a new way of working, and Xerox obviously has a role to play in helping enable businesses to be successful in the new hybrid workplace and distributed workforce. So we are intentionally disrupting ourselves, right? Looking at how we can divert dollars to our growth businesses while not moving away from our print legacy, optimizing that and simplifying that, but being able to invest more and more in some of the digital transformation offerings that we have to support businesses who are going through these changing times. You know, so many companies now have adopted this hybrid work environment, but only 85% of them have really made technology investments, have not made technology investments. Sorry about that. 85% have not made the sufficient technology investments to really enable productivity in this new work environment. So we're reinventing ourselves. Marketing has a big role to play in that, marketing and comms, in terms of really shifting the perception, introducing, Xerox in these new spaces to new customers or existing customers who didn't know that we had those offerings. But when then you add to marketing and comms, pricing intelligence and strategy, client experience and insights, revenue operations, inside sales. These are all amazing complements to a marketing growth strategy because it allows you to take that market intelligence and portfolio strategy and really orchestrate where you need to make pricing adjustments to gain share where you need to make pricing adjustments to hold margin and hold share, where you need to support your go-to-market leaders, where they need new, they're going after new client acquisition, new logos, how you deliver top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel activity to help support them. So it's a great opportunity in our new operating model to really be able to orchestrate some very intentional shifts for the company as we go through this reinvention journey.
So it's almost like you need to reinvent yourselves in order to help your customers who they need to reinvent themselves. And if you can, it positions you better to help all of the rest of the companies that rely on your services.
Absolutely. We are reinventing ourselves using all of, the external market forces that are changing the world and all of our clients and partners today, right? We have to adopt, we have to reinvent, and we have to be there to drive their success in this new world.
This expanded remit that you have, Deena, CX, pricing, go to market, sales, productivity, etc. This and the way you're talking about the CMO as a growth orchestrator, this 100% aligns to the research that we did with NewtonX that literally identified CMOs as growth orchestrators, responsible for not only data-driven marketing but this multifunctional kind of approach that you've been talking to. But this expanded remit, this one that goes beyond traditional marketing, sounds a bit like a CMO's dream, right? CMO is, if only I could manage the pricing and the data and the technology, and if I could look after customer success as well. So going back to this growth in your title and tying it to this expanded remit, I realize it's early days for the transformation for Xerox as well as for, your new role. But how do you expect this expanded remit that you have, more things coming into the marketing department? How do you think that is going to drive growth at Xerox? How is it driving growth? Or if not yet, what impact do you expect it to have?
So it's very early. We just literally have implemented the second phase of the reorganization. So I was named in January, and we just went through a pretty significant reorganization at the end of February. So very early days, about, just a little over a month into this new organization, but you can already see the power of people. My senior leadership team now is represented with people in revenue ops, client experience, partner marketing, direct marketing, brand, inside sales, right? All of these people together with their rich perspectives when we're trying to solve problems or create programs, the power of them together has really been amazing. And I've already seen some early wins. We just launched some programs, sales enablement programs. So we created one global, sales enablement team that has consistent enablement tools for sales, regardless of whether they're in the UK or Canada or the US, right? We're all dealing with similar competitors, similar clients. And so it's packaging things and taking the best from each of the areas and what everybody was doing already and being able to scale. So I think one of the most powerful insights that I have already is the ability to scale more quickly, and globally at such a faster pace. So it's accelerating our ability to really put into action our playbooks.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think, you mentioned in one article that I read that your team is responsible for breaking down silos, which I think, goes to that orchestration role. So what strategies are you using to drive cross-functional collaboration for those teams outside of your purview, not in your remit? And I think particularly around data and technology, which is so foundational to client centricity and to growth, right? These two things that we're talking about here. So, any strategies or tips that you want to give to people about how you drive that collaboration when they are outside of your particular team?
Yeah, so absolutely. I have a very, I would say, deliberate management system around my team and around, one-on-ones and staff meetings. And I invite people who are very instrumental to our success into those staff meetings as if they reported to me, even if they don't, right? So our IT business partner, our leader within IT that works with us closely on data projects and client data, he's part of my staff meeting. He's part of my one-on-one cadence, just as if he were reporting to me. And it's not about being territorial. It's about that collaboration. It's about creating that trust, that environment where people understand each other, trust each other, are part of the solution together. And we've worked so well together. So we partnered, IT and marketing partnered together on a client data project and a significant investment that we've just kicked off into a CDP, a customer data platform, so that we can actually unify all of our different data sources from within Xerox, because obviously we've gone through tons of acquisitions, as many other companies have, and you have different data sources and that you need to unify, but also external connectors into other systems that we use. And you can have a unified account profile. You cannot be client centric if you don't understand your clients first. So the first part is organizing and understanding the data and getting the insights to the people who need it in an efficient way. And so that's something we partnered on together. And I'm so excited that we've kicked it off because it will really be able to drive that next level service, whether you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, trying to do the right segmentation to make sure that you're marketing to people who actually care about what you're talking about and who it would help.
Thank you for sharing that CTO story. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same one that we highlighted in the work that NewtonX and Adweek did together on CMO cross-functional collaboration. And I think that speaks to the real, like, what's nuts and bolts of what's happening in the CMO role today. In our research, we were able to actually quantify this very soft art of collaboration and then show that collaboration actually did have business impact. We had identified CMO collaborators into two groups: great CMOs who were driving dramatically better business outcomes, and then good CMOs who were sort of their peers. But the great CMOs we found were driving twice the revenue growth, 9 times customer satisfaction, and they were 6 times more innovative. So I'll say that's sort of the statistical backup for the story that you just shared on the importance of collaborating and bringing those people into meetings and to kind of treat them as one group.
As a small aside, Daniel Kahneman, he wrote that book, Thinking Fast and Slow, the behavioral economics Nobel Prize winner. He died last week, but he had this whole philosophy about adversarial collaboration. And whilst we shouldn't talk about our colleagues as being adversaries, the idea was that if someone did some research that challenged what research that he had done, they would get together and take the initial research and the second research and then bring it together to try to get to the kind of the third evolved hypothesis or the actual truth of it all. And I kind of love that term, sort of adversarial collaboration, because it doesn't mask the fact that sometimes there is a little bit of tension between sales and marketing or finance and marketing or whatever the case is. But if you can acknowledge that and then get together, there's potentially a greater truth or a greater outcome. So I wanted to pick up on what you were saying there about customer-centricity and that being the holy grail in its sense. And that research I was mentioning that we did with NewtonX, we found the same thing. Like 80% of respondents claimed customer centricity had become really important. However, what we also found, and I think this is what you were also saying, but correct me if I'm wrong there, which is they're claiming importance, but very few of them were taking any steps towards making customer-centric real. And that could be a unified business goal, that could be aggregating all audience insights into one place and making sure you disseminate those out. And so there was a kind of rhetoric, but there wasn't much of a reality, right? And you were mentioning that this unified commercial strategy that you have at Xerox. So I guess my question is, in the sense of having that unified commercial strategy, does that ladder up to a sort of unified business goal in a sense, right? that you're all kind of, there's not sales revenue and marketing metrics, but everyone is kind of laddering up to that one goal. And then a related question in a sense, how have you delivered this unified look at the customer, aggregating data from, customer service calls, from events, from media, from wherever it is, into one place, and then disseminating it back out? So I guess I'll make that question clearer. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've got Xerox behind a unified business goal? And then how have you then aggregated all that customer insight together and made sure that everyone has access to it, the kind of democratization of that data, I guess?
They're both such great questions and ones that I'm really passionate about. And what I tell my team is our goal is the company goal, which is to deliver on this reinvention. And the reinvention has, several different aspects. At the highest level, it's to make sure that we have the right offerings for today's marketplace to make sure our clients are successful. Then it's to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for sustainable, long-term, profitable growth, right? We want to make sure Xerox is still relevant and profitable and in a leader position 100 years from now. And in order to do that, there has to be a very orchestrated mix shift here, right? We need to go from hardware centric to, services led, software enabled, which is where the world is going, right? That's where our clients need us to go. That's where we're going because we need to make them successful. So the reinvention is the company goal. We have 3-year targets. And that is very much my team's goal. Then each of them, depending on their position and who they service within the organization, might dial down into, operationalizing those goals for the go-to-market team that they're supporting, right? So we have direct to enterprise, we have direct to small and medium businesses, we have the indirect channel business. And so there might be slightly different prioritization or operationalization of those goals, but at the highest order, we're all behind the reinvention together and enabling that reinvention. And one of the most important parts of enabling that reinvention is making sure that we do democratize the data around our clients. Our clients are changing. The people we're selling to are changing, especially as you think about selling a printer or managed print fleet into a company is very different than automating workflows for a company, right? You have to sell to different personas within that company. And so it is really important that we understand those personas and that we get the insights that we need and make them available. I'd say today it's quite manual how we do that, from event feedback, from advisory council feedback, from global accounts program, from our NPS survey results, our brand study results. But that is one of the leading factors into why we decided to invest into a CDP, is to democratize that data and have it unified in a place that makes it easily accessible for whether you're a service technician, a sales rep, a marketing person, somebody in billing. You'll be able to have the insights you need from all of those different sources in one place at one time.
I wanted to touch on, to just double click into one area. You mentioned brand feedback and NPS. And I was curious, how do you keep a pulse on your brand's health over time? What methods have you found most effective for tracking your target audience and how they're experiencing and connecting with your brand, knowing that that's happening at more touch points than ever before on their terms? How do you ensure that your customer data insights accurately reflect their sentiments and experiences? And then how are you using these insights to identify your brand's strengths and growth opportunities?
As a brand, we invest in brand studies at least twice a year, formal brand studies at least twice a year. Those inform our media investments and campaign tactics that we have in market. But at the highest order level, it helps us understand where we're strong and where we need to focus, right? So Xerox is a brand, for example, very strong in the 45 and over demographic, not as strong in the 25 to 44, which is a sweet spot for us. It's where the emerging decision makers are coming from in the B2B space, right? And so those are people who need to understand us. And so we've put a lot of emphasis on new channels, new tactics to reach that audience, and grow in our perception with them. And in conjunction with that, then we also do NPS surveys through Medallia. We've adopted Medallia as our NPS technology platform. And we survey existing clients, right, on many different things, mostly on relationship right now and service, so that we can incorporate that into how we cover and service our clients. And in the future, as we organize our data in a more streamlined and unified way, we'll be able to have more event-based surveys. So then you could, you saw somebody browsing on Xerox.com, or somebody attended an event, or somebody just had a technician come to their site. And then you can actually survey them in real time as it relates to that activity.
Love that. I think that's a great mix of kind of the necessary ones and the emerging ones that I think are going to be becoming a lot more commonplace as teams get more sophisticated in implementing them.
It's, the CMO role or a CGO role today, you have to be very close to your CTO, and the technology platforms in the marketplace that can actually help you achieve your goals, right?
Yeah, that kind of older relationship, saying it was about sales and marketing. Right now, it's sales and marketing, and then for a while it was sales and finance. Sorry, marketing and finance, and now it is, it's those two plus, and maybe even first the whole technology piece of it all. Yeah.
And I think you were mentioning earlier kind of the adversarial collaboration, but I think that adversarial collaboration between finance and marketing is healthy. It's a healthy one, and I think those people who are successful in their roles, or have longer tenure in their roles in this space, will be the ones that figure out how to make that relationship a healthy one, right?
Absolutely. And they kind of push each other and get forward something better. Right? Yeah.
Okay. So, Deena, you are driving AI in a big way at Xerox, which is very exciting. We, on a sort of almost a year ago, collaborated with the Wall Street Journal CMO editor in the early days of Gen AI. And that editor sought to understand how marketing leaders were approaching this new technology. And even back then, our study realized that the vast majority of CMOs were already experimenting with Gen AI, primarily as a productivity tool, increasing efficiency, producing content. Now that some time has passed, curious for your opinion, where do you think marketers are with Gen AI, and how have we evolved the way we've used it since the early days?
So I think it's really we're in I would say like phase 2 for marketing, right? Phase 1 was the productivity, focus that you spoke about. I think a lot of marketers adopted it very early for content creation, translation, iterations, things like that. The second phase is really going to be about getting smarter in terms of personalization and segmentation and AI, right, for marketing, and without bordering on the creepy side of personalization, right? There's a delicate balancing act there, but I think there is so much more that can be done in terms of personalization from a marketing perspective. And I think the best way to drive adoption is to create a group within your team that really display, that embodies kind of that experimentation that you want to see in your full organization. So we've created a marketing AI council. They iterate on ideas of how to adopt AI. They're the first pool of people who will test new tools that we have. And so it's just creating that awareness and breaking down any barriers of fear of trying and experimenting with AI in marketing. We've done that in our group. We also have obviously an AI council within Xerox overall. And Xerox has been an early adopter, again, something people probably don't know much about because they didn't hear enough about it, and that's what we're working to change now. But Xerox has been an early adopter with AI. I mean, we've been using RPA to automate internal processes since 2016. And that's why we were very early with our own offerings out to our clients on how to help them in this digital transformation journey.
Really interesting what you're saying then about that shift from efficiency. And I can see the way Xerox is ahead of the curve there, right? I think the research, I think it was yours, Jackie, with the Adweek one that said, 78% of people were looking at efficiency as their primary goal of AI. And when I hear that, that to me feels like doing the same, but with fewer people or lower cost, right? It doesn't feel like doing more, right? So maybe you've got the same number of people or you've got the same cost, but you've done more for it. And so with someone with growth in the title, I'm sure that's more where, you're talking there about moving away from efficiency into generative AI and into more kind of growth driving strategies. And so I just want to kind of dig into the generative bit a little bit. When we talk about generative, the next word seems to be often text, content, video, basically where marketers always go to, right? The marketing material. But then going back to that whole kind of insights view, and when you do have all of your insights into one place, I'm assuming that you're already exploring the role of AI and machine learning there to canvas all of that data to create new insights. So personalization, yes, but what are the insights that we can take from, say, someone who called up with a complaint about this product, and then that's connected with the product marketing team over there and something over there. So, how are you using AI in that generative sense, but not marketing materials, into kind of insights?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually have some solutions for clients to be able to do that intelligent document processing and workflow, automation and things. But I think from our own growth potential, having the insights in one place where you can then layer on AI, this is where Salesforce is really leading the market from a client data perspective. It's not only unifying and democratizing, but then it's layering in generative AI capabilities on top. And again, for many different uses, not only marketing and segmentation, it is really truly to improve the client experience, improve the offerings that you're able to give, improve the service.
So, Deena, it sounds like Xerox is pretty far down the road of AI, as much as anyone can be when we're all in the early days. But, what would be your kind of words of wisdom to people who are just starting on this AI journey? And I think relatedly, we're here talking about CMOs. How do you see it affecting the role of the CMO, and how should a CMO be ready for what is coming, what is already here?
I think it's important for the CMO to embrace it, to educate themselves, to use networks that are available to us, right? Through the research that many of you do, through the events. There's so many different marketing events for marketers to get together and learn from each other. People who might be a little bit further along the journey than you are, or have an idea that you'd like to test out. So it is about, networking and making sure you're understanding what your peers are doing, not being afraid, allowing yourself and your team kind of that permission to fail forward and fast, because we are in an age that's changing rapidly and you can't be left behind. And it can really have the ability to make your job easier and more powerful in terms of more meaningful and more powerful in terms of delivering growth for the organization.
So another one of the, unsurprisingly, priorities that came out in the CMO research we did was around proving ROI. And with the need to both measure what is measurable, but also perhaps more importantly and more challengingly to make measurable what is not, right? And that is the struggle. And, we know it, but let's just be clear about what that is. That is, 36-month journeys, that is multiple touch points, buying committees, multi-stakeholders, and all that data we've been talking about that we want to pull insights from. So can you share some specific approaches about how Xerox's approach connecting marketing activities to business results along the customer journey. And I think everything from connecting, brand to demand, as well as connecting, at that level, whether it's brand or demand, into business results.
We partner really closely with our go-to-market leaders as well and hear from the field also about what would help them. And sometimes it's different than what you would think, because we tend to think that the field is always looking for kind of that bottom of the funnel, demand level activity. And sometimes they're the most surprising advocates of some of the brand investment that's the hardest to measure. And so what we do is we try to tie our brand strategy to our demand strategy as much as possible. I think like many marketing teams, you always have to do more with less, right? And you have to shift to what's working for you and what's resonating with audiences quickly. So I think that's one thing we try to always do is make sure that brand and demand gen are tied really closely together, and that there is a brand and demand gen campaign together so that we are at top, middle, bottom funnel together. I think in the past, CMOs often thought of them as two different strategies and often implemented them as two different strategies. And I don't think we have that luxury anymore in this world, this new world where we want to see results quickly. Brand and demand have to be tied together, and you have to be free to kind of play with your tactics and make sure that you're maximizing what's working for you. We obviously measure, lead generation, right? MQL to SQL, and then, opportunities and closed opportunities and revenue, etc. But there's also that kind of perception, measurement that is also really important too. So we do keep those more qualitative ROI metrics on the table always when we're looking at our investments and their return. It's from an employee engagement, employee retention, employee recruitment, but then also when you are trying to drive new logos and new client acquisition, I think you have to be clear about how long it will take to really have that brand investment play out and start generating results, but what kind of demand activation you have in play in the meantime to balance it out.
I think that's a really key point in terms of setting expectations, right? Around, the role of brand is not to drive brand health as a means, an end in itself, right? We are driving brand favorability and brand health because that drives revenue, right? And, without a good brand, then you don't have demand. And so in terms of, are there any particular tools or strategies or approaches that you've used to connect what happens at that, generating demand level to capturing the demand level?
There's a lot. I mean, our team has full playbooks of how brand and demand play together in terms of health, favorability, consideration. Because I think the next thing people don't think about is it's not as if you're a favorable brand, but are you being considered where you want to be considered, right? Are you relevant where you want to be relevant? And then ultimately, are you generating demand where you need to generate demand? And so I think there's different tactics for each of those. And now with AI and with data, you can be so targeted and have complementary, so for example, we might do complementary targeting of specific industries or companies or geographies where we want to give both that brand favorability consideration type of tactic with out of home and with other types of digital display messaging, and complement that with very targeted email nurture campaigns or LinkedIn campaigns to targeted people in companies in that area.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that whole machine learning AI approach too, we have an example where we use machine learning to create a mid-funnel KPI, which often gets lost in this kind of brand lead gen kind of conversation, right? So, machine learning giving us the sort of engagement signals that we're going to be connecting to pipeline and sales. So it's having the right KPI all through the journey and then linking them up through the journey. So really interesting.
We've covered almost all of the hot topics on branded marketing today. I think we've established that CMOs across industries, especially in B2B, are at an inflection point. And, we've been going deep into the shifting landscape of B2B marketing, and it's really getting its moment, I think, especially in the last year as we look to this year. Where are traditional playbooks being challenged and rewritten? Given your role at Xerox, can you share where you're pushing the envelope and experimenting with innovative approaches to redefine these B2B marketing playbooks?
Yeah, I think, one thing that we often didn't allow ourselves as much was to be emotional or playful or, a little bit less serious, right, in the B2B space. And we're still now with this convergence. You're right, human. Yeah. So we did a lot to kind of change that mentality within our organization and with the agency partners that we work with to just become more human, our messaging, our tone, our visuals, because ultimately we all want something that speaks to us in our daily life. And how is it going to make our daily life better, easier, more productive, more fun? And so I think we did definitely challenge our own playbook very much on kind of how we represented ourselves in marketing campaigns, the tactics we used. We tried some paid ads in channels like TikTok because of a very specific demographic that we were targeting. And we tried even more playful tones in that channel than we did in others, right? So I think it is about allowing yourselves as B2B marketers to not be stuck in the ways of the past and really rewrite your own playbooks.
I think we see that. I mean, even in representing the NewtonX brand, we wanted to be human and approachable in how people saw the work that we did. And I think you're seeing brands be a little bit more playful and to really stretch the brand in a fun way, right? Where you can still Xerox can do on-brand messaging on TikTok, right? And it's like, maybe that sentence would have sounded crazy 2 years ago. But now it's like, well, yeah, why would you not be? So I think that's a great approach. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I guess it's tied to digital transformation too, right? I mean, we talk about the younger buyer, but again, it's not the younger buyer in itself. It's where is the younger buyer? The younger buyer is on TikTok, on Reddit, on those kind of channels. And these are people who grow up with a different approach to communication, a different approach to advertising. So meeting them where they are in how they want to hear things, right? And that's the whole kind of shift into that digital world.
Kristin, thank you so much for being my co-host today for this session. Deena, eternal thanks for sharing your insights and your role and transformation that you are currently working and undergoing at Xerox, and looking forward to hearing more and seeing more.
My pleasure. It was great being here. Thank you very much.
It was a real pleasure, ladies. Thank you so much.